Right, we're back on the RS Turbo. Right, we've just put the lawnmowers to one side for the moment, and we're going to be looking at the trim and bumpers on the RS Turbo. We've got some preparation work to do on them, and let's just show you what we've actually done so far. Well, all we've done here, we've basically rubbed the bumper down with a 500 grit paper. It had a bit of a chip out here, as you can see, so we've just put a bit of fiberglass at the back there. That will just give that joint some strength so that we can actually overfill it. And it's probably near enough gone off now. We've done this about 15 minutes ago. So we're nearly ready to fill that. So we're looking at the rear bumper this time, and typically for rear bumpers we've got a bit of damage which is obviously reversed into a post here, and as it's hit there it's actually lifted up the plastic at the top there. So what we basically done was we sanded over this with the mini dual action sander, because all this paintwork here was all sort of cracked and crazed. So we've taken it right back to where the end of the crazing was, and obviously that's down to the actual bumper there, and exactly the same here. There was a black line there where it obviously hit something, and obviously there's a dip there. So what we have then done is we heated this up with a heat gun, because this is actually the plastic that actually puckered up and raised. So we've heated this up with a heat gun, and then we basically literally just pushed that below the surface again once we heated it up. So we've now got this area with a dip now instead of a raise. So what we can do now, we're going to apply some filler now over the top of that, just a thin skim of filler, and then hopefully we would have pushed it down enough so that that isn't sticking up proud anymore. We'll just sand that out flat again, and also just fill in that little bit of a divot there as well, and we should be good to go. All we've got to do then is just rub the whole rest of the bumper down. We'll give it a prime, and then if there's any little spots we need to put some stopper filler on, we'll do that. And after that then we'll give it the base coat and the clear coat, but that's obviously weather permitting. So we're going to go mix some filler up now, and we'll put it on this part here. Right, as with everything, what you should do obviously is to wipe everything down once you've done your sanding with a panel wipe or a wax and grease remover, because you don't want the filler fouling because you haven't cleaned your surfaces properly. So make sure everything's definitely clean. As you can see, there we go, look. That's ready, Gary, is it, the filler? Yeah. So right, it's mixed up the filler, and we're just going to apply it over the whole area. It's actually quite warm out today, so the filler's actually going off pretty quickly. Right, I think we're okay now. Right, again, there's a few pinholes in that, but I mean, don't forget, once we sand that down, if we need to touch it up in a couple of places, then we can do that afterwards.
Don't need any underneath.
Oh, we've got one more spot underneath there, haven't we? Yeah, let me just hold that for a second. Although that actually looked pretty much okay. Right, so we just put a thin skim under there as well. So we can let that go off. Always make sure, what everyone forgets, is clean your tools off afterwards, before it all sets. I know these are only cheap throwaway things, but it just gets you into a good practice of cleaning up after yourself. So again, don't take a lot of that. So we've got loads of these, but we try and use these for as long as possible, because it's a bad, you know, you just get into bad habits if you're just throwing them away after one use all the time. It's not really the thing to do. So just clean them off, and once you get them down to that sort of stage, you can either do a little bit of thin sandpaper, fine sandpaper, or we just sort of give them a flex about and then just scrape off with a sharp blade. That's all we do, and we keep using them. And also, if we buy these sort of in bulk anyway, so we've got a good dozen or so, and people are tempted to buy different sizes of these plastic scrapers. We like the plastic ones because you can actually bend them a little bit if you're going around a corner. The metal ones you can't tend to bend, but they're okay on straight stuff. But things like this where there's contours, you can just add a little bit of flexion to them and bend them. And don't bother buying these in different sizes, just cut them down. So just get one like this, cut one which is half the size, and cut one a bit thinner, and you can use one to do sort of many different sizes. Not only that, we also use these pads. I think you can buy the ones that are called onion pads. You just bought one of them, haven't you?
Yeah, yesterday.
How much was that?
£6.50.
£6.50. These are the pattern ones. There's no brand naming on these at all. You get these on eBay for about £2, and it just means that you've got a clean panel every time you make some new filler up. And there's normally 100 sheets to these things, so again, it's a throwaway consumable. It just makes your life a lot easier. You hear people saying that you shouldn't mix it up on cardboard because cardboard sucks all the oil out of the filler. That may or may not be true, but I've used cardboard myself in the past. And also, if you're using the same bit of cardboard and cleaning it down, after a while you get a build up of filler on anyway, so it's nice and smooth. So just consumables, just how we use our consumables, and just getting into good practice basically. So yeah, that's what we do. Well, we're going to let that go hard now, and we'll come back and sand it. One other thing as well I'll show you. Where's my little DA sander, the one I had? This little DA sander, which I only bought this one a couple of weeks ago, and I used it on the day that I bought it. Now, again, this was only a cheap one. I think this was about £19, I think it was. All well and good, works a treat. Well, I hadn't used it for 2 weeks, and I plugged it on when I cut to sand this bit down, and it wouldn't work. Try dropping the oil in it. You see, with these cheapo ones, I think it's with the normal ones as well, you're supposed to oil these on a regular basis. Well, it basically seized up. I tried undoing that thing there and squirting oil in there. Didn't want to know. The only way I got this to go again was to give it a few taps with a hammer, obviously to free it off. But obviously you get what you pay for. These are little cheap tools. They're ideal, I suppose, if you're using it all the time and you are lubricating it on a regular basis. But if you're only using it spasmodically, I haven't used this for 2 weeks, it had actually seized up. There's my other one there, Gary. This again is my other DA, which is a lot larger. Obviously, I think it's an 8-inch DA. Is it 6-inch DA? Might be. I can't remember. But again, this is another cheapo one. Again, I went to use this, and the actual pin there had seized up. So again, did we try this one?
You ain't tried it.
I don't try it. Let's try it now. Just something to be aware of if you're buying air tools, that this might just be the cheap ones. Hey, I freed it off, and all I did basically there was I was just tapping it with a hammer, and that was just enough to jolt the internal workings. Even though I'd been squirting oil in this one today, but this has been sitting down for probably maybe a month or so. So you just got to maintain your tools. So on a regular basis, when you finish them, where it says oil, just drop a few drops of oil or WD-40 down there, and give it a quick squirt again, and hopefully, because it's the water in the air lines that actually freezes these things up and seizes these things up, because there's loads of water in there in these air lines. I have got waste traps, as you know, on my spray guns. There's also one at the start of the compressor, but air in your air lines can cause so much problems with, especially in paint. If you ain't got a water trap on your paint,
Air in your air lines.
air in your water lines, right? No, what am I talking? Water in your air. If you've got water in your airlines, you can have things happen to your top coat, for example. Like a few months after you've sprayed your car, you might see little bubbles appear, little sort of surface bubbles appear, and that's basically moisture in the airline, and that causes that to happen. So I've actually had that myself, so I do know about that. But that's why professional outfits, when you're dealing with professional outfits, they've got air dryers and stuff like that as well, which actually dry the air before it gets to your air gun, so there's no moisture in it whatsoever. Anyway, we're going to wait for this to dry. I'm going to have a cup of tea now, and then we'll come back and give this a sand down and see what we're left with. Right, it's about 15 minutes later. This has gone off now, this filler. So all I'm going to take is a little bit of 80 grit paper and a flat surface sanding block. Nothing special. And we're just going to rub this surface down. Again, I'm not doing any hard pushing. I'm just letting the cutting action of the sandpaper do the work. I mean, you could do this with a DA, but you probably haven't got a DA, so I'm just going to show you doing it by hand. Always clean your paper out as well. Right, now this is coming down nicely now. I'm rubbing my hand over that, and that's coming down nicely. But what is highlighted is over here, as you can see there, where I've had a flat surface going over, it's actually another high spot has actually shown up there. So that's going to need heating up and pushing down again. So, and that's just through sanding. So if you just try sanding a small area like that, you wouldn't know. Because I'm going over the whole length of the area in even strokes, it's actually highlighting that there is a problem here as well. So we didn't actually see that or know about that, so we're going to carry on sanding for the minute anyway. I'm just going to wipe the area clean. It's nowhere near down yet, but I'm just going to show you how you can also find high spots and low spots. Just going to clean that down with a wax and grease remover for the moment. Because all I'm going to do here, just to show you this is to apply a little bit of paint, and it's called a guide coat. And the purpose of a guide coat is not to cover anything or to spray anything. It's basically just to get some paint on the surface, because we're going to be sanding it away, and if there's any low spots after we've sanded, we'll still see the remainders of some paint. Let me show you what I mean. Right, we'll just let that go off. So all I've done there literally is just speckle the area with black paint, and it shouldn't take very long to dry whatsoever. In fact, there we go, look, I've only just sprayed it and it's dry already. So I'm just going to continue sanding now. With my paper, and let's see what we get left with. Now as I'm sanding, let's wipe that away for a minute. What you can see happening, don't forget, it's no good if you're doing little bits of sanding like that. The object of the exercise is not to get all the black out. You need a flat surface going over, and you can see what we're basically left with here. Again, just at this stage, you can see there, for example, that there's still black left in there. Now with the long strokes I've been using, most of all the other paint has actually disappeared, so I know there and there are low spots. I know that's a high spot because everything else is sanded around and we've gone down to the colour, the undercoat there, so I know that's a high spot. So I know I'm going to need to push that down, and I'm just going to continue sanding, because although running my hands over the edges here, that feels absolutely lovely. So I know I'm near enough to level there, because I can't feel any change from one surface to another. So I know that I'm there, and if I didn't have these and if all this was smooth, I would now change to a lot of 320 paper and just blend all this in to take out the 80 scratches. And then once I've done a 320 sand, knowing it's all smooth with the 80, I would then be in a position to prime. But I'm not at the moment, because we've got dips here still. We've got that there still as a dip, and we've also got a bit sticking out there. So that's how I know that I've got more work to do. So I can continue to sand just for the minute, because there might be a nice build up of filler here, because that's where we had the dip there, if you remember, the raised bit which we pushed below the surface. So I'm just going to carry on with my long strips for the moment, long sanding action for the moment. And I'm going, as you see, I'm coming around that curve as well there, see? So I'm trying to incorporate the shape of the, and I'm not even pushing, I'm just using the cutting action of the actual sandpaper. I'm just letting it glide along the surface, and that's why you want to keep the paper clean on regular intervals, because you get a build up of paper there. As you can see, I'm sanding this dry, by the way, and if you get a build up of filler on there in powder form, then you're not sanding flat again, because you're actually putting a groove in wherever. So always keep that clean. It's not rocket science, you just got to be aware of it. And as I say, I'm not pushing hard whatsoever. Now, as you can see, that spot's actually getting smaller and smaller now. I'm still fine. I'm rubbing my hand over the surface, so I'm still taking it down a bit further, because everything still feels alright. There's no dip, because I'm keeping this flat. A lot of people tend to use their hands and just go in an area there, then you create a dip. So using long straight movements, you're avoiding that. And come at it from different angles. Try and follow the contours. See, come from all different angles. Try and follow the contours. No pressure at all. This filler is blurring in with the undercoat there, so I now know that I've got down to the level I need to be. We've still got that little bit there, so I know I need a bit of filler in there. We've still got a bit there, so I know I need a bit of filler in there. We've got a dip there, a little bit of black paint there, so we've got a filler in there, bit of filler in there, and this has got to be pushed down. So basically, once I push that down, I will then skim from here out to about there and do exactly the same. See, we didn't know we had this problem, and just because we've sanded flat and gone with a contour, we've now found out, and we've put the guide coat on, we now know that where we need to fill. There we go. There we go, we left black marks on there now, so that is now below the surface. So we can go ahead now and put a skim of filler over this whole lot up to about there, and then hopefully we'll get the same effects as what we got there. Alright, good afternoon folks, it's the next day now. Again, I had to rush out again yesterday, so I couldn't actually film Gary priming the actual bumper and the final bit of rubbing down, but anyway, it's now the next day, and again I've got another short day because I've got to go out again. So let's just show you at the moment where Gary's primed the bumper, where that dent was, where it had an impact damage onto the bumper. Let's just show you how that's turned out. So let's have a look now. Right, well this is where that damage was. I think you'll probably agree that it's not done too bad a job of that. So going down it, if you rub your hand down that, which I'm doing at the moment, before, as I said to you, it was a raised lump there, which we, as you know, we heated up and then pushed back down, and then thin skim of filler over the top there. So the old bumper now, as you can see, is primed and ready for a final rub down with some 500 paper, and where it's just highlighted little bits, as I said to you, that needed filling, we've just gone over the top with a little thin skim of stopper filler, and that bumper then will be ready for its base coat. So we've actually done the same to the front bumper as well, as you can see here. So exactly the same procedure. That's again ready for a final re-rub down, where we've had to put little bits of stopper filler and a little 500 or 600 paper just to finally go over that very lightly, and that will be ready again for the base coat. All we've got to do then is the actual rear spoiler and also the two side strips, as you can see down there. So that's what we're doing at the moment on the Escort. So that's on hold for the moment because, as I said, I've got to shoot out again in a second. And while we've been doing that, we'll just show you this Flymo lawnmower that Gary brought. No, he didn't. No, what did he found it there?
Found it next to a skip.
This Flymo lawnmower that Gary found next to a skip. And again, he's given the case a good clean, and we've actually taken the covers off, and the carb was totally gummed up. So that went in the ultrasonic cleaner and put back on, and he's just in a process of cleaning the deck up. As I say, you won't recognise this from what it was. This was absolutely filthy, this. But as you can see, someone had actually welded a bracket on there, but he's taken that off at the moment. And we're going to actually plastic weld around there and possibly come up with some sort of metal bracket to be better for that. So we've got to work on that one. And there's also some sort of crack down the front here, which again we're going to plastic weld, and that will strengthen that front lid up. But these actually produce quite a bit of money. As I said, this item was thrown away by someone, and it did actually start, didn't it?
On easy start, yeah.
He started it on easy start first of all, so that shows that it was running. And but as I say, we took the carb off and serviced the carb and cleaned all the jets out and put it in the ultrasonic cleaner. So he's just gonna finish this off now, as I say, because I've got to go out again shortly. And this will give him something to do on this bank holiday afternoon, on bank holiday Saturday in, is it May? Isn't it May the 3rd? Yeah, it's the May the 3rd weekend. So that's what Gary's going to be doing. So I've got a little bit of time where I'm just going to earth up the potatoes in the log cabin, and we'll just water everything, and then, as I say, I'm going to have to shoot out, and I'm not really going to get much done today. So that's what we're doing at the moment anyway. So I'm going to leave you at this, leave this video here for the moment, and hopefully when we come back on the next instalment of the RS Turbo video, we'll show you us putting the base coat on and applying the top coat to the actual bumpers, and that will be in the next video. So anyway, thanks very much, hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe. We look forward to your comments, and we will see you again next time. Thanks very much and goodbye.